Business is brought to you by Audible.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Married with a Business. I'm Craig.
And I'm Allison.
And we're Married with a Business. We're here to share tips, tricks, stories of what it's like to be a married couple that own and operate a business together, and also raise a family and volunteer and do a ton of stuff.
Which is all the things we were bouncing around this morning.
Yeah, that's what's going on with me right now. Like, I'm coming off of one of the major, sort of volunteer boards that I've been on for 8 years.
You've done an amazing job.
I appreciate that.
They are losing a fabulous board member.
And you know what? People have been super nice about it. Like some of the people that are staying on the board and all that have been very nice about, hey, thank you for all the work you did, all that kind of stuff. It's been great. But it's kind of weird. It's just you put so much time and effort into something for so long, and it's kind of like bittersweet.
Season of life is changing.
Yeah, and I'm already finding ways to fill that void by doing other volunteering and helping out with other organizations that our children are in.
God help them.
I don't know if they're looking forward to that or if they're like, gosh, I just wish this guy would go away. But no, it's just definitely I love having the abilities and the talents that I have and sharing them with people and helping out, if it's helping a youth organization with marketing or websites or whatever it might be. But it's kind of weird to be in a position now where it's I'm not necessarily have to do any of it,
Right. Well, and that kind of ties into what I wanted to talk about this week, because I think our brains do work differently than other people's. I think the more we volunteer and the more we see people outside of work and even in work, we see that maybe our work style and the way we approach things are a little bit different. So, Craig, do you feel like sometimes you and I are speaking different languages?
Never. No. What's the right answer here? No. No, of course I do. There are times where it just happened 15 minutes ago when you were trying to ask me a question about a deadline for something. And we were having a conversation about one thing, and then your brain went to another thing, but I was still thinking about the one thing. And so you were like, well, what about this? And I'm like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. The deadline's next week. And you're like, no, what about this? What about these dates? And I'm like, what are you talking about? The deadline is next week. Yeah.
And so I feel like, especially when we were younger, I feel like we've gotten better about that. We would have to, instead of fighting, we would have to find other ways to communicate. And I remember coming up with you have to say it a different way. Yeah. Say it differently to me.
Yeah. Ask me the question a different way.
Well, and I think that what you were just saying, one of us is still thinking about something and the other one of us is already on to the next big idea and the next thing, and then we can't, our brains can't figure out the silos that the other one's in.
Yeah, and I think again, you and I are very lucky that we have worked together now in one capacity or another, either owning a business or prior to owning the business we worked together, and we have gotten to a point in 20 plus years of doing this, to almost over 25 years of doing this. Gosh, every time I talk, it makes me feel older. We've gotten to a point though where we can talk to each other, and I know I'm better at knowing what you're thinking, and you're better at knowing what I'm thinking, and the communication's a little better. But it took a lot of work to get to that point.
Yeah, and our work styles are different, and I think that's sometimes what creates that, miscommunication. And a work style is just our natural way we approach tasks and problem solving and collaborating, and so even though in so many instances you and I working together and running the house together can be on the same wavelength, sometimes we get this weird disconnect because our styles are inherently different, which is why we work well together, that we just cannot comprehend what the other one wants.
Yeah, and there are times where it works great. And I think more often than not, us having these two yin and yang sort of styles of how we work and operate has helped us succeed. But there are times where we definitely butt heads over it.
Yeah, and I think figuring out how to understand our different styles can improve that collaboration and teamwork that we have, and so that we can play to our strengths and our weaknesses, and knowing how to communicate things. Sometimes when I say, you got to say it to me differently, how you have to think a little bit different, whether it's literally saying it different or like getting me a picture or something like that.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about sort of like the common work styles that they are. And like, I think when you look at these and you think about these, you aren't just one, right? Like most people have a little bit of each one in differing levels. I also think it depends on like the arena that the work is happening in, you know? So like there's the visionary, which is the big thinker, right? That's like the creative person. They've got the big ideas. They're seeing the possibilities. They're thinking about, you know, driving the future opportunities and looking at the overall big picture, the future of it.
Right. And it doesn't have to be like Craig is the visionary and I am not the visionary. There are times when I have visionary things and there are times when you have visionary things.
Yeah. And I think sometimes like when I feel like I'm being the visionary, I think a lot of times you feel like, okay, that's the wow. Like we talked about the how and the wow a lot, right? And how like sometimes I'm a wow person and you're a how person. Like visionary's the wow person, right? And the how person has to, you know, the weakness of the visionary is like they don't think about the details. They just think about the big idea. So I think that's why the second one that we wanted to talk a little bit about was the planner. So the planner is the how person, right? So like a visionary works well with a planner because the visionary can go like, we're going to do this. And then the planner can go, well, here's how we're doing it. Here are the steps that we need to take. Here's the system that we need to follow.
I feel like a lot of times you have ideas and I have to say how, and I have to figure out how. But that's not always the case. But inherently, you're a high I person, so you're much more outgoing and talkative, and I'm more of a C, detailed-oriented person.
Yeah, and I actually kind of think it's interesting because I think in our personal life, like at home, those things, I think we're a lot of that. Like I think I'm more of the visionary at home, and you're more of the planner at home. But I sometimes think in work, the roles shift a little bit. And at the office, sometimes you can be a little bit more of the visionary and I end up being a little bit more of the planner.
Yeah, I think at work, I think in general where my role is right now, where I've taken a lot of the day-to-day actions off my list, I can look at that bigger picture more often than you can because you are still meeting with clients regularly in the day-to-day with your sales and estimating and design team.
And then I think the other kind of common work styles that there's a doer, right? So that's like the logistical person. That's the action-oriented, get it done. They've heard the idea. They've heard how the planner says the idea should be done, and they just want to do it. They want to build it. They want to make it happen. They want to see the results. We talk a lot about, in our industry of remodeling. Back when I was younger and the business was a little bit smaller, I would do sales and then I would also work in the field and I would, remodel the bathroom. And so I would be the doer. And like that, I sometimes long for those days because when you're the visionary and even when you're the planner, there's always something next, right? There's always another thing. When you're the doer, sometimes at the end of the day, you get to like step back and look at it and be like, this is what I did today.
Yeah, and sometimes with the doer, though, it's hard because once you know what you have an idea of what you want, and you just want to go out and do it. The doers can seem impatient or blunt and rush through things. Sometimes when I'm in that doer role, our team says it's really hard to keep up with me because I get the idea, I'm ready to go. We figured out a plan and I just want to start working on it.
Right.
And our team is like, well, we need to like take a step back because you're like a little too intense right here.
And I think the last sort of work style is the supporter, the collaborative person, the person that is there and wants to be there. They're diplomatic. They really usually prioritize being in a team. They like teamwork. They like collaboration, and they are very good at helping build that team and keep that culture of that team. But sometimes their weaknesses and their struggles might be that, maybe they don't make decisions fast. In the disc, a lot of those people are S's, right?
It's so funny. I just wrote down next to our notes that person is an S.
Right. Like they're a great team member. They're a great part of the environment and culture that you're trying to create. But they may not be the person that, like, they can't think of the big idea or they get really overwhelmed when you say, well, what are the steps we're taking to get this done. They just are, they're and sometimes I think we find with the people that are S's in our business, sometimes they have the best ideas. It's just trying to get it out of them.
Yeah, trying to get a clear path forward. When, what's funny is as you were reading through these and we were talking about the DISC personality profiles, which is what we use in our company. There's lots of different ones. But it made me think that when I was at the conference a few weeks ago, several people had referred to DISCs and being S's or C's or whatnot. And I had just finished facilitating a roundtable discussion about change. And we left and a lady was like running after me down the hall. She was like, Allison. And I was like, yes, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you wanted to talk to me. And she goes, I just had a real quick question because you guys kept referring to like these letters and I don't know what that means. And sometimes I forget because it's so ingrained in our culture at work that not everybody is looking at communication styles that way and looking at their team members that way. So why we do it is because having that like kind of formalized plan gives us a shared language so we can talk about how to communicate and interact with people.
Yeah, so there's a lot of other ones that are out there. What is it?
The Enneagram,
yeah.
The working genius styles, Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, they all have them out there. We use DISC, and like when you're thinking about the work styles that we just talked about, they kind of fit into that DISC. So D, dominance, right? That's a person that's a doer. They are the person that's direct. They're decisive. They want to get it done.
I got a project manager on our team that he didn't come out as a D, but he is absolutely a D.
Yeah, and he's a very good project manager, and those are good traits to have for a project manager. The I in DISC is the influencer. That's generally the visionary. That's the person that likes to talk to people and has kind of a bombastic personality.
That's you.
So, that person is usually outgoing and persuasive. Sometimes they're not a very good planner. Their desks are messy. They may not be overly organized. I'm just giving excuses for the reason my desk's messy.
I'm not rolling my eyes.
But, that's the I. The S is the steadiness, right? We talked about them. S.
That supporter, that collaborative person.
Yep. They want to be there. They want to be part of a team. And then the C is the organizer, right? They're the planner. They're the ones who
conscientious.
Yeah, they want everything written down. They want the details. Quality is important. Accuracy is important. If you say, I've always known that you were a C, and you're a C for this reason, right? If you go to the grocery store and something is $1.99, I say, oh, it's only $1, and you're like, no, it's $2.
We just did that.
And so that's how the DISC works though. And the DISC is really, really good if you're, especially for your team, if you have a lot of team members in your business and you're having a hard time communicating with somebody, understanding their DISC personality and being able to sort of cater your conversation to their personality will help them succeed and help you be less frustrated.
And I think we like the DISC because it's an easy entry into the personalities. It's easy for our team to understand. It doesn't get into big, complex quizzes or conversations. Like we can kind of give them the profile and quickly explain to them generic boxes. But again, like why we're decoding our partner's work style, right? Because you as a high I, a visionary, an outgoing person, and me as a C, a planner, a detailed-oriented person, we very clearly balance that how and wow back and forth with each other. And so that when you come to me, you have to have some details, not just a wow idea, because otherwise we would just fight all the time.
Right.
And I know that you're going to come to me with like this big thing out here, like we're going through right now. And I'm trying not to shut down every time we talk about it because I know I have to process some of the how are we going to get there done, but I don't want to like kill your spirit.
Right. And I think that and I also think it's, on my side too, as the wow person and like this big idea that we have right now, it's one of those things where it's like, I know that I can't come to you and expect you to give me an answer tomorrow. I've got to keep giving you information. I've got to keep reviewing it.
You have to keep knowing what those friction points are with us.
Yeah.
Disney, every time you talked about it, I just shut down.
Right. But we got to a point, I mean, and when we did the Disney thing, like it started 5 years before we started having, like, I started peppering you with, the idea, a good 4 or 5 years before we actually did it. Cause I know you, right? And like
that might be happening now too, just so you know.
I know you, and like I know that it takes you a while to get there. I find for me, like, I have these big ideas. I go and I buy something, and then I have buyer's remorse after it. Like, I think you get to a point where you've digested and dealt with the idea so long that you don't deal with the buyer's remorse.
I'm dealing with it beforehand.
Yeah, you deal with all the buyer's remorse before we write the check.
Oh my God, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? How are we going to make this work? And then by the time I get through that, I'm like, all right, let's just do this. I'm tired of talking about it now.
Right.
Yeah, so again, we have worked really hard to get through those friction points, though, and understanding where those friction points are. This has not been a short-term process, and there have been battles and discussions along the way for us to become more inherently comfortable with that and figuring out where we clash in, whether it's managing money or planning a vacation or doing things around the house.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, again, communicating with each other, talking about each other, having a little bit of empathy about how the other person feels, like understanding that, and it took me a while, right? It took me a while to understand that, like, the moment I come to you with an idea, you're overwhelmed the moment I say, I have got this idea. And then, like, your blood pressure just goes up the moment I say those words.
Right.
And
my first answer is no to everything. And I've been trying to remind our team that, like, my first answer to everything's going to be no. So just go with it.
And
it's not a real no.
And so, but like, we've gotten better about with each other, not going off that cliff before we've even had a conversation about it, or we are much better now about appreciating the other's points of view.
Right, and we have to leverage the strength, because one person is gonna move us forward. Not that the other person's not moving us forward, but it's about maybe we're too cautious sometimes, and if I didn't have you to be less cautious, I might be more cautious than I am, right? So it's about, being successful at home and at work is about finding that balance. And it's hard work, right? Like,
it's hard work.
Like, successful people aren't successful on a whim. They're successful because they failed a lot.
Like, and
don't look at somebody who's got money in the bank and driving a car and thinking they didn't fail a ton to get there.
Well, and like, I don't want to brag or anything, but you and I have put a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of work into, like, this part of our relationship, right? Like, understanding where, and like, I know that I think for some people it's important to go to couples therapy. I think for some people, like, if communication is a challenge, like those things are important. But I think that you and I learned very young, and we worked on it at a very young age, like in our early to mid 20s, about understanding our personalities and our way of working and communicating with each other.
And unlike a lot of people, we were lucky to be exposed to ways to do that very early, at the same time, in the same place, by people who are having similar conversations with us.
I mean, and everybody should go take some sort of personality test. You can go online. You can take, most places you can find a free disc test pretty easily, or one of them, and take it with your partner. Take it with your spouse. That's
what I've liked about what people at our office have done and our team have done. They've, like, taken copies and taken them home to do them with their spouse at home, because once you understand, you want everybody else to understand how to do it too.
Yeah, and when you and I did it, you were probably 22, I was probably 24, 25 years old. We took these tests and we sat down and we talked about it. Like, and we read books and we digest, like,
this is why you are that way.
Yeah, right. This is why, yeah. And so I think that, finding, like, taking a personality test with your partner, and, like, I don't mean, like, taking it together. Don't take it together. Like, print out 2 copies, sit in separate rooms, fill it out, and then come together and talk about it.
It's an amazing date night.
Yeah.
We're nerds. I get it. That's what we think is fun.
But sit down and talk about your personalities and talk about how you can have some, how you would approach each other.
And then creating a complementary to-do list. Like, I let you do all the cooking because you're so good at it, and you let me do all the cleaning.
But that's a prime example of our personalities, right? Like cooking is creative, it's visionary, it's that high I in me. Cleaning is, organized and white, and you do it it has to be the same way every time.
And you don't do it right.
And I don't do it right when I do it. And it has to be the same way every time. So that's like in the C personality, that's that steadiness. That's that,
right. An example, like this week after I cleaned up and I put everything away, and you said to me, well, why do you put all the kids' lunch stuff away? We need it in like 9 hours. And I said, because at the end of cleaning the kitchen has to be clean. It has to be put away, looks like we don't live there, so that we can move on. Because otherwise, I get stressed out.
You went away and spoke at that conference.
I don't even want to know what my house looked like.
You went away and spoke at that conference for whatever, 3-4 days. Bed didn't get made at all the whole time you were there.
That is the worst thing.
You know when it got made? You were going to land at the airport at 11 o'clock at night. It got made at 9:30 before I left for the airport, so when you came home, you were in a made bed.
When I got up in the hotel and made my bed, and I was thinking, Craig is not making the bed, and I have to be okay with it.
I can't believe you make a bed. You're the crazy person that makes a bed in the hotel.
No, I just flip the sheets back because I have to be in the space, and I've got to like I have to sit on the bed to put my shoes on. Anyway. So again, you can Google online to find some surveys. There's also a really great book that we've read and we've talked about a few times. It doesn't do the disc, but it does your working genius, which is like your areas of creativity. You can get that on Audible. I've listened to it a few times.
Yeah, Patrick Lencioni, the 6 Types of Working Genius is a better way to understand your gifts, your frustrations, and your teams. So it talks a lot about getting the idea of working with your team and a little bit about like their personalities and the way that they work and how you can better organize your skills to work with your team. Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni. It's available, like you said, Allison, on audible.com. You can get a free 30 days of Audible on us. Just go to audibletrial.com/bizmarried and sign up there. 30 days, you can download Working Genius. You can download kind of any book that you want that's available on Audible.
So many good books.
So check it out. audibletrial.com/bizmarried to get a free 30 days of Audible on us. We got a lot of exciting things coming up, so make sure you're checking us out online. You can find us on social media. You can find us on Instagram @bizmarried, or you can just search for us on Facebook, Married with a Business. You can also check out our website, marriedwithabusiness.net, and it's got a little bit of everything about us there, a little bit about our bios, some information about how to contact us, how you can reach out and maybe be a guest on the show. So check that out, marriedwithabusiness.net. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back soon with another show, some great interviews coming up here in the coming weeks, and just more information and stories about like our crazy life. It's fun to share this stuff, Allison.
It is. I love it.
It makes me feel it's like offloading our craziness onto the people that are listening to us.
Well, maybe they are listening and thinking, God, at least I'm better than they are.
Well, at least hopefully they're listening and going, hey, see, everybody's crazy. But thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back soon. And remember, not only is it important to focus on your business, but also your marriage, because we're married with a business.